let's start with the Bruins and the Maple Leafs. Kevin, what do you make of what the Bruins and Leafs are going to go over the next couple of weeks?
Well, I suppose some of the Toronto fans are fatalists because of the way these last three series have gone, but
they should be.
Yeah, they should be. That said, they probably haven't watched the Bruins power play for the last 12 games, which has gone 3 for 30. I look at so many of these series to be determined by that whole net front issue, which the Bruins have been able to squeak by Toronto in these series, even without great net front play or inside ice. The game where they got defeated.
All these new buzzwords. Whatever. Where are all these buzzwords coming from?
Well, yeah. Because we can't say sticking their ass right in the front of the crease,
right?
Yeah. So, they don't do a good job of that. Now, that said, I don't see that the Leafs do a great job of it either, but the Leafs has got some more firepower around there. They let guys like Hyman go and Bunting go, those guys that kind of could master that game, but we'll see. We'll see. What the Bruins have going for them is goaltending, and what the Leafs have going for them is what they've had going for a long time, and ultimately ends up their fatal flaw is a bunch of slick forwards who can put up real numbers, and then at least against the Bruins they've faded away come playoff time.
What do you make of it, Eric?
So when I was doing my preview, I put the two rosters side by side, and to me, it's a stark contrast, because I look at Boston and Pasternak, great, Marchand, good, but not what he once was, and then who's the next forward? And it's like, is it Zacha? Is it Coyle? Is it DeBrusk? Is it Heinen? And 1 to 12, there's not a lot that jumps out at you once you get past 2, and then of course on the other side, you've got Toronto, Matthews, great season, Marner, terrific. Tavares looked better lately. Nylander hasn't looked good lately, but had a great year. Bertuzzi was added, for these playoffs. Domi was added for the playoffs. They look really good on paper. So side by side, I'm thinking, why is this Boston team so much better than that Toronto team? Because on paper it shouldn't be that way, but of course the answer is the game is won on the ice, and Boston collectively looks like they're better than the sum of the individual parts, and Toronto looks worse than the sum of the individual parts. And I think Boston has the edge in defense, and of course Boston's 2 goaltenders are better than anything Toronto has to offer. So I mean, my rational side says it's Boston for, and the history has nothing to do with it, because, this is a new edition of Boston. Doesn't have Bergeron, doesn't have Krejci. This is a different edition of Toronto. They've added some pieces that are designed to make them tougher to play against in the playoffs. But it is hard to find a rational reason to pick Toronto. Now, the irrational side of me says that, sometimes throw all of the analysis out the window, and Toronto's just tired of this narrative, and you will see a great push from them. Several people that I talked to in my preview panel thought that a real key factor was that Toronto was starting on the road, that was an advantage, because they wouldn't have quite the scrutiny or the pressure that they could go into Boston. And if they could, win a game or maybe even win 2 games, then suddenly the pressure reverts to Boston. So I don't know. I mean, if you ask me to make a pick, the rational side of me is taking Boston, and the irrational side of me that grew up in Toronto is picking the Leafs. Does that make any sense?
I have 2 questions.
All right.
Number one, in the last 7 years, how many times have the Leafs beaten Boston?
Yeah.
How many times?
Oh, last 7 years. I was going to say the last 7 times the Bruins have won all 7, but I don't know 7 years. Yeah.
Yeah, Bob, I can't come up with 7 years of Boston and Toronto without a little bit of notice, but sorry.
Well, the answer is none.
None.
The Bruins have won every series. Question number 2. How many times did the Leafs beat Boston this year?
Well, it was 4-0 for Boston. Yeah.
Thank you. Again, none.
Okay.
So
I hate it when
this series is really easy.
You're saying we have a chance.
I tell you what, I hate it when McCowan logic comes into play. I really do.
Yeah.